Next up, we have Rebecca Surroz. She's going to be, she is currently the vice president of ISA, the group at University of Illinois, one of our most fantastic student groups that is constantly doing creative and awesome things. She's going to be telling us how to make your group more friendly to women. So, here you go.
Thank you. How do I clip this on? Like, oh, just like that? Sorry, I've never worn one of these before. I've never done this before. So, there we go.
Okay, hi, so I'm Rebecca. I've been an executive officer in ISA for 3 years, and I will be for at least 1 more. So I'm talking today, girls just want to have fun, but we don't just want to have fun. We want to work with your secular group, and we want to be activists, and we want to do social work, and we want to do everything that the guys get to do. So why are we talking about this? When I first thought about this talk, I had a lot of people say, like, well, I've never had any issues in my group, and we haven't really had a lot of issues in ISA. So is this even necessary? So I did a survey. It was for current or previous women members of any secular group, not just student groups. And I got 69 responses, which I thought was great. It was mostly white women. It was mostly college graduates. Had a very wide age range. The youngest was 16, the oldest was 58, but it was mostly in their 20s to 30s. But one thing we have to remember is that this is a self-selecting survey. It's not random, so we're not seeing the full spectrum of atheist women. And who we didn't hear from, I think, is almost more important than who we did hear from, because we didn't hear from the girls who walked up to the table, saw a bunch of white guys and walked away because they were intimidated, or the girls who came to one meeting and somebody hit on them and made a sexist joke and they left. So we have to remember that there's this whole other section of girls that didn't answer. So we had some really good survey results. Like, the first thing I saw was like, oh, I thought there was going to be a lot more physical harassment or online harassment, and there wasn't. So great job, guys. So we're still seeing some of it, which is bad, but a lot less than I thought, which made me happy. And then most of the girls that answered felt that access to opportunities like officership or conferences was very fair. Which I was like, fantastic. This is great. This is going so well. I don't even need to do this talk. And then I did need to do the talk, because 73% of respondents either often or rarely heard sexist jokes or comments. 60% of them either often or rarely were passed over in discussions, so that's where we're seeing those microaggressions that Ashley was talking about earlier today. And then I asked about individual responses. I don't need you to read all of this, but I kind of pulled out responses and clumped them together. Up at the top, it's like, oh, I don't have any problems. My group is fantastic. I was like, that's great. I love these responses. Then there's ones, haven't had bad experiences, but I've heard about them. I feel lucky that I haven't been dealing with any sexism. Okay, that's not so good. And we've got, males usually pick the discussion topics. You know, it's skewed real white. You know, I'm feeling these microaggressions. Okay, we want to work on that. And then I'm often infantilized. I'm a rape survivor. I was told that rape isn't an issue anymore. That's really bad. That's definitely something that needs to stop. And then at the bottom, here's that person that we're not seeing in the survey. I haven't been hugely involved because of the sexism in my group keeps me away. I don't want to be there. So great reasons to care about diversity in your group is, one is diversity begets diversity. So the more women, the more people of color, the more LGBT members you have, the more interested other minorities are going to be if they can see that you care about diversity. And then that'll lead to overall growth. And then, I mean, let's be honest, the more girls you have in your group, the more guys you're going to have in your group. So if you want overall growth, let's bring in the women. And then it's also a lot easier to reach out to other campus groups with diversity. For instance, we had one woman in our group who worked at the Women's Resource Center. We were able to bring in their assistant director to speak. We have one girl who's working with the Prisoner Justice Program, so we're going to do an event with them. We have one of our members is head of her trans support group, so we can do events with them. So it's a really great way to connect with other people. So we want diversity, but how do we do that? So we're going to talk today about attracting women, making women comfortable, getting them active, and strategizing for not the possible, but the problems that you will inevitably have with this. So first thing you have to do is actually get the women there. So the biggest thing you can do, I guess, is have at least one woman at all promotional events. So when you're tabling, when you're flyering, when you're doing like Hug an Atheist, always try to have a woman at your table. Whenever ISA schedules things, we've got at least one woman there all the time. Because when a girl walks by and they see a bunch of white guys, they're scared. The first time I walked up to ISA's table, there was a girl and a guy, and I walked up to the girl, and I got the information from her. And I showed up at the meeting because she was there. If it had been two guys, I don't know if I would have kept walking or not. And then when you have group photos, Gordon was talking about advertising and online advertising. When people look up ISA, they're going to see girls front and center in our pictures, which is great. Another thing you can do is heavily promote events related to women's issues. Like we had the director of the Women's Resource Center come and talk to us. She is an atheist. She was in our group originally, so she could talk about atheism and feminism. I mean, how better related can you get? You can't. And then we partner up with women-related groups on campus. We had Jamie Kilstein come in, well-known feminist. We had Planned Parenthood come. We had the vegan group on campus come. Had a great time with them, made some connections with them. So once you get them there, okay, but they might leave if they don't like you. So we have to make them comfortable. So again, having the women-oriented events that you've promoted heavily, so like that, have female speakers, have female materials. In our case, we have a secular library. It's got over 200 books, and a lot of them are written by women. They're about women. The top of that stack there is One Woman's Fight. We have a book halfway down that's Annie Laura Gaylor's. We have a ladies' night every semester. We usually end up having an unofficial guys' night at the same time, and we end up having a prank war generally. This picture is from the very first ladies' night. We're all holding toilet paper because we're going to go TP the president's car. And they later came back and they silly stringed us, and it was great. And we had a lot of good bonding time. And generally, when women come to our ladies' nights, they stick around, and we see them again. Another great thing you can do is when you see them, just sit down and talk to them. And that's good with all new members. Anybody who's there, if nobody talks to them, they're going to leave. But try not to have every guy in the group ask them out. This is a problem we've had in ISA where a new girl shows up and everybody just hits on her, because what that says to me is, you're not interested in me for me, you're interested because I have boobs, and that's not really what I want. I don't really know how to stop that from happening. I think that's just a cultural shift that you need to work on, and that starts with the officers. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So now that they're comfortable and they like you, okay, let's get them involved. Best thing you can do is have women officers. Absolutely, because that says, hey, we like you in all aspects of our group. So we've got two pictures here. This is from our Light the Night Walk, where we raised a few $100s for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. The picture on the right has 5 girls in it. Can't really see 2 of them. They're all officers. The one on the left here, this is Ellen. She was our outreach chair. She organized the entire event, which took months of undertaking at local businesses. And so we had her give a talk right after the mayor, because we wanted to give her the credit for doing all of this work. We didn't want that to be taken away from her. Another great thing you can do, again, for all members, but is really great for women, is just encourage individuals, again, with talking to them. Just sit down, hey, are you coming to the event on Saturday? I can't wait to see you. I'm so excited that you're coming. And then have sign-ups for general members to volunteer at events. This is our Hug an Atheist event. If we have sign-ups for members, like, oh yeah, you're gonna be there Thursday at 2, right? They'll show up, they'll hold a sign, they'll hug people for money, and they'll feel great about it. So you're gonna have problems. You can do all of these things, they can all be perfect, and you're gonna have issues. The best thing you can do is plan in advance. So you can have a code of conduct. You need to know how to handle the inappropriate advances and harassment. We had a party where some guy showed up and just made everybody deeply uncomfortable, and we didn't know what to do because we hadn't planned in advance. So we had to sit down the next day and figure out, okay, what happens? What do we do if this happens again? And we ended up just picking a couple guys to be bouncers. Like that was our plan. And you know, it works. Same party, actually. I don't know what was up with this party, but we had a member of ours try to follow somebody home. And again, what do we do about that? And this was a girl that hadn't shown up to anything before, but she looked really interested. She was asking us all sorts of questions about the club. We never saw her again. So, I mean, if we had a code of conduct in place, if we'd made it very clear to our members what was and wasn't okay, maybe this wouldn't have happened, maybe we would have had another member. I don't know. Another problem they might have is online presence or issues with your officers. We did have one officer comment on a couple statuses women members had with what they saw as misogynistic comments. And then we had people threaten to leave the group. I still sometimes have people come up to me and say, I don't want to be in your club if this is how your officers are acting. And that's really bad. Like, what do we do about that? So again, have a code of conduct, have standards for your officers, let them know what isn't okay. Now, we can't tell people what to think, and we can't tell people what to do, but we can tell them what is and isn't acceptable standards in our club. And once they know that, they can either choose to follow them or not. So women want to be involved. They want to do all of this. They want to get in your club and they want to be atheist activists, and you just kind of have to let them be there and create a welcoming culture that Ashley did a great job talking about earlier. I think a really good way to start with this is just have open discussions on it with people. Just talk about it. These are our problems. We want you to listen to us. Here's what we can do. And then something that really helps is calling people out when you see sexism. Be like, hey, that's not okay. And that starts with your officers. If the officers aren't doing it, no one's going to do it. But I really think if we really work on this and we create a more welcoming environment, not just for women, but for all minorities and for the white men, because we need them too. I think we can create a better and a more secular America together. Thank you.